4A Sectional 20. A lot of good football in this one.
Yeah.
You're talking about Logansport against Mississinawa. Mississinawa ranked 8th, 7-0 on the season. They would play the winner of Bishop Dwenger against Marion. Dwenger 5-2. Marion 4-3. That's coming off last year's 0 for the season.
Yeah.
And they played a lot of young kids, sophomores, freshmen last year. So obviously they've improved. Then on the bottom half of the bracket, Wayne at New Haven. New Haven's still sitting there undefeated. And then Leo Southside. Leo coming in 5-2, and Southside coming off a win over Northside. So we've seen that improvement thus far this season. If you're Bishop Dwenger, let's start off there because they are the reigning 4A state champs. Man, you have a gauntlet.
You do.
If things play out like they should, based on teams' records, I mean, this is not an easy road to a sectional championship for your reigning state champs.
Marion has athletes all over the field, and they are going to challenge Dwenger tremendously. And this would be a huge step for Marion, who has struggled for the better part of 5-6 years football-wise. You have the defending 4A state champion coming to your house. A lot of optimism around that program. They've gotten some wins this year. And that's going to be a crazy environment, I think, for Marion, because there's renewed interest in that program now, and I think people are excited about that program in the community. And Dwenger comes in, the defending champion. That is a definite trap game for Bishop Dwenger. And while they did get the win last week against Bishop Luers, I still don't think they're where they need to be to make a deep run in the postseason. And you mentioned it, their road is tough. They got Mississinawa most likely after that. And Mississinawa took Eastbrook down comfortably. And Eastbrook is one of the perennial powers in 3A that we've seen, and they were highly ranked earlier in the season, still are in the top 10, and Mississinawa handled them easily. So Mississinawa, we don't see them very much, but 7-0, and it is a legit 7-0 because they handled Eastbrook.
When you look at the bottom half of the bracket, New Haven, these are games that you look at the records, and maybe it's because some of these teams play in the SAC that their record isn't as good as it could be if they played somewhere else, because they do have some players, they do have some athletes. Wayne versus New Haven, I mean, Wayne's got some guys. Craig Young, Darius Alexander, DeAndre Collins-Jones. I mean, they've got players that can make plays out there. And then you take a look at Leo Southside. I mean, last year I was at that game in the playoffs, and Southside got decimated, but Leo's obviously taken a bit of a step back, and I think Southside is improved. I mean, I don't think that's just a show up and you win game, either of those two,
no,
even though the records would say that they are.
And I think Wayne, in particular, I think, like you mentioned, they have the players. Now they've won a couple games. The confidence is there. They play a very similar game to New Haven in terms of scheme and what they like to do. So that is a definite, that could be a track meet game because I think both teams are going to be able to move the ball up and down the field. I want to see New Haven's defense this week against East Noble to see if it's legit, because I think the New Haven defense has been very solid most of the year. They just haven't been tested, in my opinion, yet by a true, very good football team, which they are week 8. So, you know, Wayne is capable of putting up points against good teams. We've seen that in the SAC, and they're definitely going to be able to put some points up against New Haven.